Haven't you ever heard of a killer? I drop bombs like Hiroshima.
Somebody said, look at LeakYou video. What the fuck is LeakYou? Is it like a site? What's LeakYou? LeakYou. Is it a YouTube channel? Oh, shit. Oh, all right, bet. Here we go.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you all are having a fantastic day. You all, there has been some, there's been some things happening in the UFO community. There's been some things happening in the UFO community, and I think it's only right that we all know about it or are, in the know, shall I say. There is a man named Corey Goode. Now, Corey Goode originally came out here saying that he was part of the SSP, also known as the Secret Space Program. A program that they refer to as 20 and backs, or a 20 and back, or a 20 and back, inside of a 20 and back sort of a thing. And a lot of the stuff that he has said is now being called into question. My question is, does this hurt the UFO community at the end of the day? And truth be told, I think anything like this can absolutely hurt the UFO community, but I don't think it's big enough overall, especially with the steam or the momentum that has been gained from the recent hearings, all right, in Congress. That is like a whole sorry about that. So as I was saying, the hearings that are happening in Congress are much to do, really. It's like its own there's a lot of momentum with that. Hey, Emmanuel, how you doing? There's a lot of momentum with that. So the question is, does this hurt the UFO community? Well, let me go into a little more depth here. Now, I've talked about the secret space program. I've heard about it for many, many years, and it is a very much so a very interesting topic, to say the least. What is a 20 and back, LeakYou? Well, a 20 and back is, imagine going to bed one day as a child. Okay, you've been getting trained. You're an intuitive empath, so to speak. All right, and you've been getting taken out of school, almost every day to be tested, analyzed. Okay, and eventually this all leads to, once they discover who's like an intuitive empath, who has special abilities, these people then go on to serve in what they call the Secret Space Program, or the SSP. How does this work? Well, they take the consciousness of a person, and they put that consciousness somehow into, whether it's a clone, another body, whatever the case may be, but they take that consciousness. And people did very detailed reports about how they served 20 years on Mars, on Ceres, on various different planetoid bodies, even fighting in a variety of different wars. And the one common theme that always seems to shine through when it comes to the secret space program is how the Germans, the Nazis, managed to lose World War II and World War I. They managed to lose the World War, but somehow have established themselves on a variety of different planetoid bodies, and they do a lot of trading. It's not just our world, Earth, human beings. There's other planets that have life that have also managed to have, people that trade with other beings that don't necessarily come from the same planetoid body. Leaky, you sound insane. You sound crazy. Maybe, maybe. But I've also watched a lot of these interviews, and I've watched the lie detector test that then followed. Um, Tony Rodriguez, very credible cosmic disclosure. Jason Rice, very credible cosmic disclosure. Now, Corey Goode falls into that same arena as being someone who states that he also served in a 20 and back program. Now, this 20 and back program is, again, someone whose consciousness is put into something else. I'm just going to say something else. And they serve 20 years. And a lot of people have asked, well, why just 20 years? Why would they only serve 20 years on this in this secret space program? Well, apparently there's something to doing it any longer. It can make someone go absolutely insane. Tony Rodriguez was a very credible, um, source or person that just talked about his experience in great detail, saying that at one point he was a slave labor, a lot of slave labor that goes on in these programs has a lot to do with MK Ultra. That extraterrestrials use this labor to build new stars by borrowing or purchasing the consciousness of already enslaved individuals, using them to operate machinery, to work on building objects, to fight wars. There is a trade in consciousness, as some people refer to it as, also known as a soul extract. Someone's consciousness or soul extract can be sold and used in projects. And that if you went any longer than the 20 years, that it greatly increased your risk of being mentally damaged. Okay. Um, a lot of this slave labor happens for an exchange in new technology, which thus results in a profitable venture for a lot of folks, a lot of people that don't really want their names to be attached to this. Okay. Um, Imagine that, a star making project where individuals are involuntarily conscripted for however many years to work in another galaxy where their consciousness goes off and they come back with these new memories after their experience. Somehow their consciousness is transferred using technology that was given to the German series colony as well as overall, right? There's that series, that purported series colony is one of many. Tony Rodriguez talked about getting on a train that portaled from our Earth directly to a planetoid body millions and millions of miles away. Portal technology. You remember on Star Trek how they would beam you up and matter would dematerialize and then materialize on the other side, so to speak. The goal is that these people that have been put into this program, the goal is that they don't have any memories, but somehow a lot of these people come back either with their memories or they come back, the memories come in later on in life, typically from what I've heard around the age of 30. Okay. Imagine waking up in a different body where someone borrows your consciousness. Must be a pretty disorientating experience. A lot of these people that have done these 20 and back programs were adolescents. They experienced this, and it for them in their regular human bodies, it may have been just, one night. But the reality is that their consciousness somehow in the varying space-time, the way that they, have the ability to break that space-time barrier, they did 20 whole years and have the memories of 20 years of service or slave labor, I should say, and being treated like slaves by Germans that have somehow managed to occupy space and have somehow managed. Now, when you really think about it, again, that's the theme that seems to continue to shine through. We've heard stories about the Nazis having technology that they've stored down in Antarctica. Remember the red mercury? Being able to create a gravitational field using the red mercury liquid, not to mention the fact that the Germans back in the 30s and 40s was building UFO craft. There was a whole group of people that had an experience with extraterrestrial beings or interdimensional, however you want to refer to them as, and somehow managed to get blueprints and information on how to build these various craft. It's quite amazing, to say the least. Give me just a second. All right. Um, so again, Corey Goode is one of these individuals that says that he has done a 20 and back. All right. And then a deposition leaked. Deposition leaked. And my understanding is Corey Goode is suing people because of this leak, this deposition leak. But I'll tell you this: Gaia, the channel Gaia, has taken all episodes that had Corey Goode on them. They took them down. Why they took them down, I don't know. Maybe it's a legal reason. Maybe there's other reasons. I'm sure legal has a little bit to do with that. But the deposition leak is pretty. It hurts. It hurts. I'm not even gonna lie. There's been so many people that have come forward and have talked about their experience in the secret space program and had lie detector tests and passed them. I don't know if Corey Goode's ever had a lie detector test. Now, there's been some projects that I've heard some talk about, these projects that their consciousness was borrowed for, to build a variety of different things, including rings around stars, around planetary bodies, which would serve as habitats for civilizations to live in, to harness free energy from these stars. The idea that extraterrestrials may have artificially created Saturn's rings as a habitat, like a Dyson sphere, challenges mainstream scientific thinking about the origins of the rings and the possibility of a flourishing civilization that potentially lives there. The idea that any advanced extraterrestrial civilization would use slave labor for large scale planetary or stellar projects is a pattern that has been observed in a lot of cases, even going back to the Anunnaki's use of slaves for their various projects, which, if you listen to the story regarding the Anunnaki, humans rebelled. Humans rebelled. And it comes down to this whole Enlil and Enki, supposedly two brothers, okay? One good, one evil. And if you're wondering, Some refer to that as Enlil being God and Enki being Satan. Enlil sending the flood, and a lot of things that when the Anunnaki is talking about, they historically talked about the flood, a variety of different topics that are in the Bible. These are all written on the Sumerian tablets. Very interesting, to say the least. So you should definitely check it out when you can. I'm not here to tell you what you should believe at all. Okay. Lord only knows, right? But if we were to take it for what the Sumerian tablets say, as far as the Anunnaki, um, humans rebelled because they did not want to be slave labor for the Anunnaki so called gods, and many believe are fallen angels. Third of heaven was cast, angels cast from heaven because they rebelled against God. And many, many feel that there is a demonic element to that phenomena when we talk about aliens, UFO, and definitely possible. Definitely possible. Um, we know that when the Antichrist comes, he's going to fool many with dazzling displays, and um, there's no question that fallen angels that came down to earth taught human beings a variety of different things, like how to read the weather, how to make weapons, how to read the stars, all of that type of thing. And if you're interested, go check out the Apocrypha. You start with the Book of Enoch, goes into detail about his trek into the various heavenly realms. Kind of opens up that door a little bit, at least as a starter. And the Sumerian tablets have been transcribed. You can always go read them online as well. But again, that is all just a lot of talk about history and all these, very interesting stuff. Okay. But is there human beings whose consciousness has been borrowed and put into whatever clone, whatever body being, and then in turn used as slave labor? Is it possible? I think so. I really do think so. We're talking about some that they're doing building projects again, fighting in wars on not just one planetary body, two, three, four. Imagine doing 20 years. And the Nazis? It's interesting how they sort of lost their appetite in the World War. Maybe they gained an appetite for something else. Again, they always had this leaning towards the occult, um, secret societies, and they've built several versions of UFOs, all right, UAPs, all right, or I should say craft that maybe weren't so, what's the word? Practical. It didn't have a really good practical use in World War II because from my understanding, you couldn't load those craft with any weapons because it could not handle spitting out bombs and bullets and missiles and all of that. It was they just hadn't gotten that far yet with the technology. But the Germans, the Nazis, I should say, have a very obviously a horrible reputation for, we know that they killed millions of people during the Holocaust. And it wasn't just Jewish people, it was people of varying different backgrounds, anyone that they found suspect. And the thought that they are in control over anything is a scary thought. Um, Hitler wanted an Aryan nation, right? The final solution. It was the final solution. When he realized he was losing the war, he was going to kill everybody he could. And he did. They ramped up their murders in those gas chambers and in turn cremating those bodies. Horrible. Horrible. Let me show you this deposition leak really quick. Now, again, I've said all of that to say Corey Goode also claims that he was in the secret space program. Had a huge platform when he went on Gaia's show Cosmic Disclosure to discuss this. And again, like I said, Gaia has pulled all of those episodes for whatever reason. Does this hurt the UFO community? Now, I will say this. There is a man named Stephen Cambion. He runs a channel called, what's the name of his channel? I think it's Truth Seekers, all one word, the Truth Seeker Show. I've watched a lot of his videos. He typically is the person in the room that is saying, always playing devil's advocate. All right. He calls the story of Corey Goode and and David Wilcox, which is a good buddy of his. I don't know how much of a good buddy they are now, but he calls it all a crock. He calls a lot of a lot of the UFO stuff a crock. And he's very adamant about his feelings and his thoughts and his opinions on it. And I have seen it, all I'm saying is you might want to check out Stephen Cambion's channel, especially when it comes to like Corey Goode and David Wilcox. It's crazy. And you got to be really careful. And I'm just talking in general here. You have to be really careful, especially with this topic. We have to be really careful about who we let speak through the community. Because there's a lot of people out there that, number one, they just want the clout, they just want the attention, they just want the fame. Or two, they have ill intentions. And it may be an even deeper reason as to why they have those ill intentions. It could be a fall guy for somebody else who has ill intentions. Anything that they can do to try to throw dirt or salt on this topic overall. And that's why I asked the question, does this leak hurt the UFO community? I think it does. Corey Goode actually has been a big part of the narrative / topic of the SSP. He's got a whole platform and content and all that sort of a thing. And so during these legal wranglings, this deposition that was done on September 26th of 2022, he proceeds to say some things in this deposition where you take an oath when you do a deposition, when you do a depo. You're taking an oath. You're sitting in front of lawyers who are asking you a lot of questions, and you are supposed to answer them as honestly as you possibly can. One moment here. Let me see if I can get this to roll. I don't know why it's doing that.
You've said you've done 20 and back journeys where you go away for over 20 years and you come back.
Yep, trademark.
And okay. And back.
Yep, trademark.
And dramatization, or is it real?
Part of it's real, part of it's dramatization. Well, the 20 and back itself is my creation. Is my creation. Is my creation. Back. Yep, trademark. I created created all of this. Yeah, trademark. What does it matter if it's real or not? What does it matter if it's real or not? What does it matter if it's real or not? I extrapolated this stuff out and created it.
Your dream or delusion, you call it. Your dream or delusion, you call it, correct?
With whatever y'all want to call it.
State you're gone away for over 20 years and you come back and you haven't aged, correct?
The 20 and back story in the book is that you're taking off planet, you serve 20 years.
Is that the story or is that what happened to you?
It is the story.
So it's not what happened to you.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
That hurts.
Not necessarily.
That really hurts. That really, really, really hurts. I'm not even going to lie to you. You want to believe so bad, and then something like this happens. Okay. Now, if you're wondering who David Wilcox is the man there in the blue shirt that you see. They've been on the Jenny McCarthy show. All right. They've done a variety of different shows.
Training that I did have.
Holy crap.
Let's
Is
take a
this
look
stuff
at this
getting
again.
interesting or what? Have you guys been paying attention to what's going on? This is Michael Herrera. He's a
Hold
United
on.
States Marine who
Training that I did have and the experiences that I did have, I extrapolated this stuff out and created it.
Okay, but it's part of your dream or delusion, you call it, correct?
With whatever y'all want to call it.
Well, what do you call it?
I call it my intellectual property.
Okay. And you state you've gone away for over 20 years and you come back and you haven't aged, correct?
Well, the 20 and back story in the book is that you're taking off planet, you serve 20 years, your age regress, and you're put back in time to where you were first removed.
Is that the story or is that what happened to you?
It is the story.
So it's not what happened to you?
Not necessarily.
Well,
It's a lot of these things are memories that I had that I wrote down, and some of these memories could be real or they could be creation. I'm not exactly sure, but I created on top of them, used my experiences to create on top of as a foundation.
are you sure of any experience where you went away for 20 years and you came back and you hadn't aged to be real?
How would I be totally sure if that sort of thing were real?
Are you sure that you had lunch today?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you as sure as having lunch today as you were about any of these experiences like the 20 and back?
Like I said, the 20 and back is my creation. It's a part of my intellectual property. Me creating it means it came out of me and that it is my story and it was never anywhere before. Makes it my intellectual property.
That's not my question. My question is, today you went to lunch, right?
Well, listen,
Listen,
I have told you
Hey, I'm asking
that
a
I
question.
made up stuff on top of it. And in this book, it says so. So, yes, I did make up stories about the secret space program, extrapolated off of my experiences that I told you about earlier.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. And so you stated in one place that you've done 3 of these 20s and backs. That's an extrapolation. That's not reality.
If y'all took about 10 minutes to read this, you will see it talks about Corey Goode, the real person, and Corey Goode, the persona that this stuff is based off of. All you have to do is read through this, and anyone in the jury will be able to read through it and make sense of that. But me delivering my intellectual property as if it's all absolutely.
The word is that the ETs have given us till 2027, 2028 to make the people of Earth aware of them, because they're going to start showing themselves around that time period.
All right. So this really hurts the UFO community in so many ways. It does. It hurts. I don't know what to say about what he said in the deposition, except to say that if this was an experience, I would think if I was someone that had experienced something like this, you can hear him saying things like trademark and all these sorts of things during the depo, right? The problem I have is the whole profiting aspect of this. Profiting, want to make money, etc., etc. Where's the truth? Where is the reality? Now, again, I know that a lot of these stories come from memory, from their memories. And sometimes some of the memories they have, those memories stick. And sometimes people have had to go through hypnosis and relive or go deep into their subconscious. You have to be hypnotized in order to obtain additional details. It's amazing. Hypnotism is a very amazing thing, to say the least. But yeah, I think this really does hurt. It puts a bit of a dent. Okay, it really does. It puts a dent there. And I think it's going to make it even harder for people to even believe that this is something that could even possibly happen. Now, I was talking about Tony Rodriguez, his story, him and Jason Rice, they're both of their stories. Again, you can't trademark or own something if it's something that, if it's a program, if it's an actual program that is ran by more than our government. But if we're participating in something like this, Corey Goode obviously would not own the trademark to that. It hurts that his selfishness, which is what that is. I don't care. I'm going to call it what it is. His selfishness and his, want to profit. It hurts the UFO community at the end of the day. And that's just the truth. That really hurt to see that. Again, put so much time and energy into getting the story out there. And so are you trying to say that Anthony Rodriguez and Tony Rodriguez and Jason Rice and others, we've even talked about a woman who was in the 20 and back program previously. Are you saying that their experiences aren't real? Because their experiences would have really solidified your experience. Because truth be told, it's so far-fetched, it's so out there, that a lot of people that walk around, they hear something like that and they instantly check out. It's only those that choose to dig a little bit deeper, and that would even take the time to listen to said story. And so by claiming that you created it, that you own it, you're basically stating that these other men and women aren't valid. It hurts. It hurts. But listen, I want to take a look here at a few things. First off, let me see if I can get this to come out. There we go. Copy. I want to bring something up. I'm going to let y'all hear something. For those of you that are still here, y'all are the ones, all right, that didn't check out instantly. Because you want to hear more. You want to know more of the story. Tony Rodriguez dropped a book called Project Star Maker. And in this book, he discusses how extraterrestrials engage in star-making projects that are designed to build and ignite stars, okay, in gaseous nebula, so suitable habitats can be created for life to flourish. He claims he spent 10 years as a pilot on a star-making project as part of a deal negotiated between a German colony on Ceres and a distant extraterrestrial civilization. Rodriguez describes the asexual extraterrestrial body his consciousness was transferred into for a 10-year period, where pilots and crews were little more than slaves, commanded to perform tedious, repetitive work to find and build out sufficient mass from space rocks to create a stable star. This generated a significant amount of resentment and depression, which is not unlike the Agigi Anunnaki workers described in the Sumerian text tablet and Dolores Cannon's writings concerning asexual extraterrestrial workers that revealed in past life memories. Significant parallels were found between Rodriguez's book and Norman Bergram's Ringmakers of Saturn when it comes to creating giant ring habitats around small stars. Michael Salah. All right, let me give him a share here. Just want to check out this content. All right, let's check this out.
I mean, clearly, trying to prove that you were on Ceres or you were on Mars or on the moon, that's always going to be difficult. But, that you were first, for 5 years, you were first in Peru and then in Washington State, used as a slave, exploited. Those are things that you can show, you can prove, and you've made progress in that. And that's wonderful that you've been able to track down some Peruvian pilots that corroborate the plane that you were taken on when you were doing the drug smuggling with the cartels there in Peru.
I just want to say that there may be other evidence forthcoming that I just don't want to share. I'm still in the process of working. In the beginning, I was just trying to get my story heard. I just wanted to tell my story and kind of support others that were out at the time. We're talking 2016. I was just trying to tell my story, and so to support other people, to show overlap, and and also emphasize that the treatment that I got and the things that I witnessed do happen. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, so we really picked the low-hanging fruit as far as presenting the evidence. So now that we've seen a really ramping up and a lack of others. Also, I thought there'd be hundreds of people like me by now talking publicly, and just a lack of other very linear testimonies like mine, other books like mine coming out. So because of that, and because of the attacks, so I'm just revisiting it all and really trying to go back and with a fine comb and go through all my evidence, and it's my form of defending myself.
Well, your testimony and your experiences for that 20-year and back is kind of like pretty unique. I mean, there are a few others that have had similar experiences, but for that entire 20-year period, I mean, you were used as a slave as punishment for this kind of like childhood incident involving one of your classmates. And so, your experiences give us an insight into how people are forcibly taken or sometimes tricked into joining one of these secret space programs, and they essentially are used as slaves, and they're just exploited and treated horribly. So your experiences give us a good idea as to the extent and how this is done. So it's very important, especially as we enter into a new era where there's just greater transparency and accountability, that we want to make sure that people who have been caught up or treated in this abysmal way in these secret space programs, that they're given, their chance for freedom, of course, but also, some kind of reconciliation or justice.
In the beginning, I was really just wanted to get it all off my chest. I never really had a great deal, when I lived through it, at the early ages after I was taken, I had a great deal of anger. I was an angry kid. But now it wasn't like that. My testimony wasn't based on a place of revenge. I think that the secrecy is how they've gotten away with the criminality of it all. And so I think just sharing it is all of the justice we need. Like, to move past it, we have to identify that a problem exists. And my testimony did that. So that's, I really wouldn't want, and it's hard to say this, in front of a camera and a lot of people, but I wouldn't want the wheels of justice to stop up disclosure for everybody. And I think just letting people know that it can be abused in this way, and that it did happen, that there are great crimes that go on, shining a light on it is really what it needs, just to raise the temperature and the awareness of it. And then it will suddenly not make sense. So people have been doing this behind closed doors and without any kind of repercussion. So I don't feel that they, I'm not angry. That's what I'm saying. I feel just speaking about it and letting the truth out will prevent it from happening. People, if they weren't behind closed doors, if they were on a stage, they'd be too embarrassed for the treatment of other human beings that they've done to do it again, for it to continue. So just speaking about it and sharing the information, I think, is my main goal. So,
well, it's very interesting because in a way, people look at slavery as kind of like this atavistic event that it happened centuries ago. Slavery was part of the colonial system, but yeah, we became enlightened, and now we're kind of like in this industrial and moving into a post-industrial society, and slavery is a thing of the past. But what we've learned through a number of people's testimony is that slavery was exported into space, and that it really just has been conducted out there and is quite extensive, and that there's extraterrestrial civilizations that trade slaves, and that that's a big part of their economy. So, how do you deal with that?
Well, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I've seen recent numbers that suggest that there are more slaves in the world today, without adding any extraterrestrial component, that in industry today there are more slaves globally than there ever have been alive. So slavery is alive and well. When I did my talk last year at the GSIC conference last October, I did have some numbers, and it was, I believe, 6 in 1,000. It was somewhere around there, 5.9. So 6 people out of every 1,000 on the planet are slaves, currently living in slavery. So it's not a problem that we solved. We did not enlighten past it, and it's alive and well. In corporations where they can get away with it, like I said, places that they can hide it behind closed doors and not be publicly embarrassed for owning slaves, it's happening. And specifically in the lithium battery business. So that's what we're hearing, is that's the main driver of slavery today, is the mining of the lithium and cobalt, if I'm not mistaken. And so that carries on. It's just, there's a form of logic about it. And I personally had to reconcile my feelings and what I'd gone through, and researched it. I researched a lot of things that were ugly about my testimony, so in order to understand what happened to me and why. And the SRA, the abuse, the human sacrifice, there were things that they did that were terrible, and I understood, and I can't get my head around, because as a logic person, as a father, and as just as a human, I couldn't get my head around how people could do that. But when you look at the history of how we got here, there's a form of logic, and there's a process that led to it. And I believe that slavery in the long run will be self-defeating and will be phased out, just as a matter of logic. So there's only so long that a society can get away with it before it's detrimental to the health of them, before it they're eating their self. It's an entity that's eating itself, basically. So slavery in the long run, over the course of a very long play, isn't going to work.
Yes, we need to bring transparency into it and throw the light into all of these different projects on space or on Earth, where people are being abused. So, you have some important experiences during your 20 and back, and we know you described in your first book, Sarah's Colony Cavalier, the 2 main periods. The first 7 years that you were on Earth, whether it was Peru, Washington, being used as a...
I'm going to drop the link so that you guys can go and finish watching this interview with Tony on Michael Salas. I'm saying that right. On his page. There's the link for you all in the live chat. But I would like to take a few looks at his his interview on Cosmic Disclosure. Let's just take a walk through TikTok lane, shall we?
Enemy of his, right? That boy, but he sat and talked to it, and his attitude towards me changed too. That he was the end of him really hating me, where he kind of felt bad for me. You know, obviously he had a report of what happened.
Right.
So that's how that works. So the 20 and back, I mean, I get asked a lot about it. Most people can't think about that. They go, well, if you were gone for 20 years, what were your parents thinking? But the fact is, I was only gone for a few minutes. I was gone, went to a 20 and back, then put back in time. There's a time loop. I guess it's what they can get away with legally. There are other more advanced ETs that police the time travel, that police it in the universe. So there are laws around it, and 20 years is what happens.
So what you think happened is that they created a clone of you that had to be 9 years old, so they had to grow that clone before this moment.
I don't think it took them long.
There's a quick growing clone.
I think they hammered out a clone in an hour.
Okay. And then they took your personality and put it in the clone, put the clone into the 20-year and back program. The clone came back. They took memories out, put it back into you, killed the clone. That's what you think happened.
That's what I believe happened, yeah. But I know I was on the moon base because when I remembered we had the issue with the chronovisor, they rolled me into another office with a guy with a chronovisor, and there was a window, and I could see the surface of the moon. It was a corner, like an office, and I could see out. It was dark out. They said that the sun did come up there, weird hours, 18 hours from now or something, but I could see the surface of the moon out the window.
Remind me again, what's a chronovisor?
The chronovisor, it was a machine that only some of them could use. They could look at probable futures of me.
Gotcha.
And they were looking into my future. They were showing me, they were trying to program different futures for me. I wasn't supposed to remember the experience. And so the whole time I was combative. I was fighting the process the whole time. Get up on the table. No. You know, because I knew at that point there was also a law in place. They had to put me back once the time ran out. There was a law that said, so I knew that I wasn't going to be disciplined. I could be combative. Another guy that I rode the disc back told me that. He said, they can't, what are they going to do to you? He was screaming at the pilot. He said something rude, you know, F you to the pilot. And I said, stop it. You're going to get in trouble. He said, what are they going to do? They have to put us back. Today's the day.
So there's like a contractual agreement that they have to take you back after 20 years.
Or, yeah, yep. But that time, they took me, and there was one showing, he was trying to narrow it down. I guess it was many probable futures. And they were trying to narrow it down to one where I didn't cause trouble. And
you think there's any manipulation of you when you got back to make sure that you stayed on that future?
After I got back, there were a few weird things that happened. A few days later, I woke up in the middle of the night and I ran as fast as I could. You know, I was upstairs in a farmhouse. I ran as fast as I could. I had no reason why. I went as fast as I could down the stairs and ran out the front door into a van where men were waiting.
This is after you got back?
After I got back. And they did some kind of follow-up. I got in the van and I went right to sleep again, and then woke up the next morning in my bed. It was a follow-up, a checkup. The other thing that happened was I lived in a kind of a smaller town, and we went out to a smaller town to a family doctor, and they called my mom, and there was some kind of offer, like it was a free test or something. They enticed her to bring me in for a checkup. And when I got there was a guy there, a younger guy that was a brain surgeon or something, way qualified. They basically had us come in for a checkup, and the entire checkup when I went in was not breathing with the stethoscope or checking my pulse. He did none of that. The only thing he asked me is if I had any weird, strange dreams lately. He got me in the room alone, which also is strange. He said, have you had any strange dreams? What have you been dreaming? And I was terrified of him. It was creepy. And I said, nothing, just normal stuff. He said, no, really, think about it. You can tell me.
Were you dreaming?
No.
You weren't?
Yeah, I mean, no. But he was asking me if I remembered what was going on, what happened. And I said no, and then he checked me out, and that was the end of it. And so there were a couple follow-ups there right after that were weird. It was weird.
Anything else weird happened to you since you've been back? Like nothing? No strange visits?
Tons of stuff.
Yeah. I kind of figured. Yeah. So they're keeping tabs on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe I was taken and interrogated in 2016.
Oh, really? After you came out?
Yeah. Right before I came out.
I thought you came out in 2015.
No, just the researchers. I was just
Oh,
emailing.
no, you had your memories return in 2015.
My memories got back,
Right.
and I recovered the bulk of my memories in May of 15.
Yeah.
And I started emailing some researchers looking for help. I wanted counseling.
Sure.
And it was in that time that I believe I was taken and interrogated and put back. So and that was another thing. Like during the interrogation, they had tied my arms out straight to the seats. There was a row of seats, and they tied me out and were giving me injections. And they went on for something like 18 hours. They kept me awake. And I remember I kept saying, come on, guys, I'm being completely honest with you about everything. And I was. Yeah, and it was vague. It was very vague. Like they did a good job at the memory blanking. But and I remember the very end when they said, okay, well, let's let you go. We're going to let you get some sleep now. And I woke up the next morning in my bed. So there was a time travel that time as well.
Aspect of this whole
Went through.
aspect of this whole secret space program, and a subject that a lot of people have a lot of questions about, and that is the 20 and back. Let's start out with you explaining to me what a 20 and back is.
Well, I'll say that it's a mystery to me too. I mean, it's baffling. I try to put it together as best I can. The experience that I went through, I was a 9-year-old boy. I was taken and then had medical procedures done on me, and then lived 20 years. Mars, Ceres, I lived a 20-year time. Everybody on Ceres that was there in a 20 back was aware of how much time they had. Some people got send-offs parties. Like toward the end of somebody's 20 and back, you started doing their work for them. We were all aware that we were going back.
Right.
And I was told, I asked one of the reptiles there, why 20 years? Why not 50? Why not more?
Yeah.
And what he said was that it has to be even other species, all intelligent species. He said that it had to be in 20-year increments. Some can go more than others genetically. Some can do a 20 and back and then a 20 and back. And some other technology was 20 and back and inside a 20 and back.
Wow.
But he said that it had to be in 20-year increments because people that stayed longer it greatly increased your probability of insanity by going back. So 20 years was the safe window of time to be outside of whatever you were and then put back in time. So experiencing it, I mean, not knowing how the technology worked, I've heard other accounts of 20 and backs, and I think that there is more than one way to do it. There's more than one technology to do it. I think that my experience was they took my spark of life or my consciousness out of me, at which point I became a vegetable or brain, on the table. They cloned me because I had the genetics to do that and put me in that clone. And when it finished its 20 years, they put it back in time because time travel is much easier than what we are led to believe. They took that 29-year-old version of me and put it back in time and then probably just killed it. And then I would have woke up or did whatever they say and put my spark of life, my consciousness back into my original body. And I woke up with my memories and no memories of the 20 and back. I woke up on a table and they said, how do you feel? Do you remember anything? And I said, no. And they said, they laughed at me. They laughed at me. And I said, I'm going to remember you guys. I'm going to tell my mom and dad about you. They said, no, you're not going to remember it. They said, you've already forgotten. And they were laughing. I'm in a room of ETs and they laughed and I got livid. I got mad and they all stopped and got funny. And there was one on a chronovisor looking into my probable futures. And he told them all to knock it off. Now look what you did. And then I had to go to another bout of mind control stuff. But I didn't remember any of that. I was back to being my normal self. But then I woke up in my bed the next morning. And I was different. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
I was a different person the night before. I was a 9-year-old boy. I was taken and did a 20 back and came back minutes later. The morning I woke up, I had no memories really of my 20 and back. But I was a completely shattered person. I was a different person. Different. And my parents knew it. My sister knew it. And my dad routinely said, I want my son back, in the months after that. He said, you're different, something, I was changed. I had lived that time. I was attracted to adult women all of a sudden. I went to school the next day and I thought my teacher was hot. And I was 9. I didn't have that before that. I didn't have that experience before that. I was different. And when I went to school the next day, I asked to go to the bathroom later on about 1 o'clock in the day. And then I said, where's the bathroom? Because I'd forgotten it. And when I sat down to breakfast that morning at the table, I said, I feel like I haven't seen you guys in years. And my sister said, shut up, stupid. You were just here yesterday. He said, don't be stupid. My parents were a little freaked out. They knew something was odd that morning. That whole morning was awkward. And, but
So
it changed me.
You had like a new maturity then. I mean,
Definitely.
9 years old, being attracted to women. And
I totally didn't fit in with my social circle anymore. I was weird. From that point on, I was kind of off. And I was very unconfident of myself after being a slave and treated like that for so long. I still had that tendency. I still had that inner fear of always being disciplined.
So you were shattered.
I was not the same person. Exactly.
Did you have any discipline problems at that point or anything like that?
Well, yeah. Well, it's slightly things. When people raise their voice to me, I would take it hard. I still do. If somebody talks to me like I'm in trouble and I'm not, I get really bent about it.
Right.
I still have problems.
Even to this day.
Oh yeah. But I was a different person, and maybe that was what they wanted. When I went to school, that boy, the next week, and when we had our Wednesday meeting, he knew it.
Like smirking at you? Or?
He did. He said, are you okay? He came up, he said, are you okay? And I said, why? Yeah, I'm fine. Why? Because I was still in a competition with him, even though I really wasn't. He said, I heard you forgot where the bathroom was. Anything else? He said, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'll be fine. Why? And I kept going back and forth. We went back and forth about it for a minute. And he said, it's okay. You made a difference. And I said, what? He said, you make a difference. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, not you, but your kids will. That's what he told me. And there was another boy there in that class that said, was that real? Did that happen? And he said to him, yes. He's like, you made a difference too. There was another boy that was taken in, but he had his memories. He could remember everything right then and there. So he was in a different role. They were friends. So he had a friend taken and put through more of a positive experience than what I'd went through as a enemy of his,
right.
That boy. But he sat and talked to it. And his attitude towards me changed too, that he was the end of him really hating me, where he kind of felt bad for me. Obviously he had a report of what happened.
Right.
From Mars, I was shipped to Ceres colony,
Yeah,
to the Ceres planetoid.
Let's talk about that. Ceres is a planetoid that is between Mars and Jupiter, right on the edge of the asteroid belt.
Yes.
How did you get to Ceres?
One day, an officer came to get me out of my room and walked me down a completely different set of corridors into a big area that looked like a mall. Another nice area, and it was a train station. The thing is, during the whole time I rode on many trains, so it's hard to distinguish one from the other, but it was a completely different train than anything I had rode before. And when it turned on, you could feel it lift up, and it went. And there was
So it was maglev.
Yeah, and it was more obvious than anything else that I'd been on. And then it went going, and the people that I rode with were free. It wasn't full of military personnel. It was full of professionals, people that were dressed well, and people that were interacting in that society with authority. And I could hear them talking. It was just like being in a city and listening to people talk about their day-to-day business.
Right.
It was a different part of society than I'd been exposed to up until that point. And it lifted off, and it went into a tunnel and gained speed. You could feel it accelerate, and then there was a poof, there was a feeling, and then almost like a ringing in my ears. Like there was something that happened. There was a shock, something, and then it started to decelerate. And when the door opened, when we stopped, it was another planet. It was instead of red dirt, it was gray dirt, and they were Germans. I was in a giant hangar area, a big place the size of many gymnasiums that it opened up into, and there were troops. It was a day where everybody was being delivered. I saw a disc fly over, your straight up chrome disc, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The other thing
So
is,
you were outside.
we were inside. It was underground. It was that big.
The cavern so big that
The disc flew over us. Yep. And there was a kind of a electrical, like a crackle when it went over. You could feel like a static electricity.
back to the flash. You said you felt a shock or electricity or what?
Like a poof. like a
What,
poof,
what did you feel?
and slightly disoriented, like a little dizzy.
No electricity or anything.
No, it was a strange. It was a strange.
So
it was
the
quick.
train went through a portal.
It portaled, yeah,
It
from
came out
Mars
the other side.
to Ceres, yeah. And they said on the train over the intercom said you had to drink water immediately because your electrolytes were off balance and it could be dangerous if you didn't. And so we all lined up. They had people there waiting, giving us water. And the people, like I said, that were professional people had they were giving them bottles of water. Guys like me, which there were a handful of us, put a number on the guys, maybe 8 guys like me, maybe 15. I don't know. I don't remember for sure. They gave us a little cup of water. And I remember going, I was dying of thirst. And I wanted more, but there was a line that said, hurry up, you got to get over there and line up. It was like the old Nazi movies. There was a guy on a podium talking in German. There were soldiers, hundreds of soldiers lined up in formation. They came, there was a German guy in a German uniform with a gun, a sidearm. And he handed us green little pieces of paper with German writing on them. And he said, you guys are going to take this. I think he called us slaves. You slaves? He said, you slaves are going to read this when you're called upon and as your best. And if you don't want to read it, you can go right over there. And he pointed and there was a black spot on the ground. He said, last month we had some slaves and they didn't want to read this. And we took them right there and we shot them. Is anybody going to get shot today? And we all just sat there quietly. I didn't say anything. He said, good, now get over there in line. And when you're called upon, you're going to read this. And when you're done, you're going to salute that flag.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Jay.
So let's start at the beginning. Where were you living when all of this started? Aspect of this whole secret space program and subject that a lot of people have.
It was very soon. Went through as a
All you have to do if you want to know more is just go and search Tony Rodriguez, RODRIGUES. If you just search Tony Rodriguez on TikTok, for example, you will come up with quite a few clips or snippets of his interview with.
I went into Theta, and then that was only a few.
His interview on Cosmic Disclosure. So again, it's like, okay, if you own this, story, so to speak, right? What are you saying? Are you saying that these men and women's experiences aren't real? Didn't happen? Like the repercussions of that alone, okay, is concerning.
Came across.
Well, I'm a captain.
Stand by, please. Sorry, I'm screwing up here. One moment, please.
Jean-Charles Moyen, who was kidnapped by extraterrestrials at the age of 4, returned with extraordinary abilities that did not go unnoticed. And he was swiftly recruited as a super soldier in confidential Franco-American space programs, embarking on off-planet missions. And his compelling documentary, Revelation Starseed 2, offers undeniable evidence of his remarkable life experience. Venturing folks into the enigmatic world of secret space programs, deciphering their goals and their influence on global politics. We'll illuminate the clandestine colonies in our solar system, exploring their purpose and their governance. And beyond human experience.
He said, we're going to borrow your consciousness and you're going to be gone for 20 years. And I said, no, I can't do that. I have my mom and dad and my family. I have a family. I can't be gone. And he explained, he said, no, you're going to go right back the next day. It'll be like you never left, but you get to live this extra time. It's going to be a huge blessing to you.
But if this is true, why keep this program with its personnel and technological advances a secret?
Yeah, it's like, again, it kind of goes back to, if it's true that this is a narrative and a story that you're selling, the fact that, the implications of what that possibly means is very big. And at the end of the day, I can understand why Gaia would have pulled all of the episodes that had Corey Goode on them. And then a lot of people just call this a lot of bullock. a lot of BS, a lot of nonsense. Again, a lot of people, when you hear even the first 1 minute, 2 minutes, 60 seconds of anything I just, told you or discussed, they are checked out. They check out because it sounds so far-fetched. Okay? It sounds so far-fetched. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, it does hurt the community. And I think that we will see people's real motivations. Their real motivations, whether it be for profit or that they want to get the truth out there. If they want to get the truth out there, anybody whose claim is to want to get the truth out there wouldn't be claiming a trademark on something that they don't own at the end of the day. Saying that the SSP and the secret space program is of your creation is essentially saying that all these other people that have had these experiences, I mean, did they work for you at some point? Like, a lot of questions come to mind. These are valid questions I think that anybody would have. And I really wish that some would be considerate of the overall topic and community overall. Because if there is any truth to this, Corey Goode, if there is any truth to the secret space program, the SSP, these experiences and it's been a lot of men and women that have come. There was a lady named Penny that came out and told us about her experience on Mars. She was also in a 20 and back program. Okay. It's to me, trademark, all that sort of, I created it, the trademark. The implications of that, Corey Goode, it seems to me that you are profit motivated. And that is so disingenuous at the end of the day. So yeah, I think it hurts. But we do continue to move on. We continue to march forward. Definitely, if you get an opportunity, do some research on the 20 and back program. It's very interesting. The thought that one's consciousness could be borrowed and put into some sort of clone or other body, and then asked to do tasks. Essentially, you're slaved. You're not asked, you're told. I mean, that's the one thing that really sticks out from Tony Rodriguez's interviews, is he really hit on how, he felt he was treated by the Nazis, who somehow managed to get into space and are doing trading and controlling planetary bodies. Hitler's body was never seen by the people. There was really no body to bury. Remember, he supposedly shot himself, and then there was a fire, and it was, him and Ava Braun. But with technology and advancements like this, is it possible that Hitler had a different exit strategy? His whole quest for an Aryan nation, blonde hair, blue-eyed people and stuff. These are very, very big to-dos, very big topics, very big implications and accusations. And so if Corey Goode was to own the narrative, so to speak, as he's claiming, what say you to all of these other people who are coming out with their experiences. Because again, I will say, these people coming out with their experiences really only solidified the stuff you were saying regarding your experience. Because again, truth be told, this is so far-fetched. Many aren't going to believe this. It's so far-fetched. So are you profit motivated or are you truth motivated? Which one? I seen another video that Corey Goode did, a live. I don't know what platform he did it on. But this was after that deposition leaked. A lot of justification or justifying why he was proceeding with a lawsuit against a variety of different people, including the Gaia channel. And it was a pretty self-serving, selfish live stream, if you ask me. A lot of stuff that you said was sounded just very self-serving to me. But hey, we all got opinions, right? Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one, you know, unless you have a genetic defect or something like that. It almost hurts to see this, just like it hurts to see, you know, someone in the UFO community, like, you know, Secure Team, for example. When they go in on another person in the community, like David Grush, that hurts the UFO community, and it hurts the message, and it hurts the goal that you're trying to accomplish out here. I never understood why Tyler at Secure Team did that. And when I say did that, made a video about David Grush, who we've talked about quite a lot on this channel. That hurt. That hurt. Now, as much as I can sit here and advocate for Secure Team, love Secure Team, love what Tyler's done over there over the years, that doesn't mean I love everything he does. I really, really hated it when he did that piece on David Grush. I thought to myself, why shoot yourself in the foot? With this whole UFO community, the topic, so to speak, the community that surrounds this topic, we have to really, really support our own. It's not like, it's hard to be a content creator on these sorts of topics. Secure Team, I'm sure, can understand that. You know, the things that you have to deal with out here when you're talking about this sort of thing, these sort of topics. And so when you go in on somebody that just blew the whistle, right? It is like shooting yourself in the foot, shooting your own community, the people, the supporters, the community that supports you. It's the same community that we really need support for the David Grushes of the world and others that have blown the whistle. Now, you know, everybody has a right to their opinion. I personally, that piece left a bad taste in my mouth. And I hated it that Secure Team felt like they had to do that. That hurt. Just like I think this hurts. But we will move on. That much I know. We will continue to move on. We will continue to move forward regardless. There's going to be those, and I'm just talking in general right now, there are going to be those that are going to target the UFO community with salacious stories and narratives, and whether it's for profit or for misinformation or to come in. I mean, you know, like the Richard Doty's, right? He admits a part of, when he was working for the United States government and in the, I think it was the OSP, or believe that was the name of his department, but he intentionally did things that, disinformation tactics, manual exactly, like disinformation tactics, so to speak. All right, that would be deployed on the United States, the people of the United States. And that's from within. But there will be those. And Richard Doty is actually one of the main people out here in the UFO community now. I mean, you've seen him on Cosmic Disclosure. He's been doing a show on UAMN, Zohar Stargate, all these different channels that I've turned y'all on to over the years. But he's got, these whole like little podcast episodes where he talks about various experiences and things like that he has been through while working for the United States government, investigating these types of phenomena. But don't underestimate. There are those that are fully in the know with this whole phenomena, and they don't want us to know everything that's going on. So they will intentionally try to muddle the waters, so to speak. And so the last thing that we need is somebody who's a part of the community, who's solidified themselves as a solid part of the community, however, whatever way. The last thing we need is for them to be turning on each other. And so that's, how I feel about it at the end of the day. That leak really hurt. Does it mean that I don't believe that there's a secret space program? Absolutely not. I know there's a secret space program. We even have a United States Space Force now, our newest branch of military, the 6th branch of military service here in the United States, a Space Force. How weird, huh? What do we need a Space Force for? What are we protecting in space? And they are hiring, by the way. The Space Force is hiring. Did you hear me? I've actually went out and looked to see what sort of qualifications you would need to work there. And it's a bit, it's interesting, the qualifications, okay? It's interesting. The fact that we even have a Space Force is pretty incredible. It's incredible. And I think it is one of the first steps in many to come, hopefully in disclosure. The United States continues to hide or not talk, not disclose facts that we have a right to know about, especially if our safety or anything that could happen to us. We have a right to know, whether it's the harvesting of souls, soul catching, soul transfers, these terrifying experiences that some have had with other beings that are otherworldly or interdimensional, however you want to classify it. Hey, Nakai, good to see you. I don't know, guys. It does not take away my belief in the SSP at all, especially based on the other people's experiences that I hear, right? Like Penny Bradley and Tony Rodriguez, Jason Rice, and others. Those are just the 3 at the top of my mind. But it does make me question anything that I've ever heard or read from Corey Goode or watched. And I've watched a lot of his videos. And I unfortunately, after seeing that, it took a big ding. It put a very big ding in his credibility to me. That hurt, like I said earlier. It really hurt. It's like a gut punch. Like, damn, man. That's all we fucking need. Excuse my French. But it was like a gut punch. Man. That hurt. So unfortunate. I wish nothing but the best for everybody involved, and I hope that we will continue to hear more stories from people that have done 20 and back programs over the years. So, shout out to everybody who came through on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Twitch, on Rumble as well. Shout out to those of you on Rumble. It is weird to think that we have a space force, isn't it, Emmanuel? It is. What are we protecting in space? Typically, our Air Force / Navy has been very protective of like our satellites and things like that. Speaking of the Air Force / Navy / satellites / Black Knight satellite, all right, the mysterious Black Knight satellite. Have you all seen the video from Neil Armstrong's X-15 test launch or test ride? He launched a X-15 plane, and there was an experience that he had while in the air. Have you ever heard of analog horror? I'm sure some of you have ran across analog horror in your lives. There is one. Let me see if I can find it real quick. And while I'm looking,
I believe that the
for any opposition.
Hold on,
Alright, Sean.
guys.
Be the light.
Somehow got all jumbled up here. Oh, goodness. I don't know why my mouse is not cooperating. Hold on. Let me see if I can show y'all something else regarding this secret space program while we're doing this. Hold on. Jason Rice. Check this out.
Okay.
While I'm pulling.
The last time
up.
we visited.
Oh, and by the way, Jason Rice took a polygraph test and passed it. Okay.
You were telling us about they had made you sign a whole lot of documents, and then you joined something called IDARF.
He spent here on Earth. Later in my deployment, I found out a lot more information about the history of the space program, this one in particular.
Where'd you find this out?
Well, it was while I was stationed on the second planet during my second deployment. And we'll call him Johann, a friend of mine that was also an officer, German descent. He was a Mars German. Not all of them were arrogant jerks. Just like our population here, you have a mixture of good people, well, nice people, not so nice people. So same thing with the Mars Germans. Generally speaking, they had an arrogant streak that would put any politician, actor, or professional athlete to shame. And part of that was because they were genetically modified. They did have usually stronger, faster, higher reflexes, higher IQ.
Wait a minute, are you saying that the German people are some kind of genetic experiment?
The Mars German civilization, they have been tinkering with their genetics since they went independent.
Mm-hmm.
During the deployment, we never would have talked about any of this around or near any senior officer, as well as around any chances of being recorded.
So it was really, you weren't supposed to be talking about what the history of this whole thing was.
That's correct.
But you must have been really curious.
Of course I was.
Everybody must have been really curious how this all happened. I mean, like, and everybody's speaking German, and we defeated them in World War II, and why are we taking orders from Germans?
Yeah, why are all of our commanding officers of German descent or German accent?
So you were already just curious as hell when you met Johann.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
So-
during the training early on, when I first met him, he knew things about technology that none of the other trainees knew.
Right.
And so he'd been exposed to it. I knew that he had. And they tell and educate their citizens a lot more on what really happened. Now, I'm absolutely certain that they also provide them with propaganda, but the origins, what happened pre and post World War II, what's happened on Earth, their involvement with alien species, the lessons that they've learned from those involvements, their people are a lot more educated on that.
So World War II ends. We know the Germans were developing the Foo Fighters and early UFO technology, but they didn't save themselves from the Allies at the end of World War II. They were defeated. So what happened?
Well, in the late 30s,
Yeah.
there were a number of secret societies, the Vril Society being one of them, that the German state absorbed into their R&D programs. And they were already visiting other planets at the end of the 1930s.
So they had developed technologies in the 30s?
In the late 30s.
Wow.
They had developed these anti-gravity or saucer technologies that allowed them to travel outside of our atmosphere.
And why didn't Hitler use this for fighting in World War II?
Well, he wanted to.
But he didn't. So why didn't he?
The problem was that they couldn't outfit these UFOs with modern conventional weapons because of the second law of momentum.
Right.
They couldn't shoot and expect it to stay in place. As you get a force in this direction, you're going to get a reaction in the opposite direction. And so since it's in the air, they wouldn't work.
So conventional weaponry doesn't work with zero-G craft?
Not unless it's corrected and they didn't have that advancement. There's nothing on Earth that's even remotely close to what they are. And they're at the size of a grizzly or polar bear in their mass, but they move quickly and fast like a spider. And so that was where the hybrid spider reference came from.
So what, they can change directions like spiders do really quickly?
Hop, move. It's just unbelievable how quickly they're able to move around.
Intimidating?
Very intimidating.
Where did you see these creatures?
These were on Calidus 3, Planet 2. This was the invading enemy that came and was used to try and destroy the planet. The purpose, again, trying to reduce the planetary populations.
Were they made or manufactured? Are they real?
And they were also lab made somewhere. They were not a reproducing species. They were androgynous in that they didn't have any male or female. They didn't have any reproductive organs. They were built for a purpose, and that purpose was to destroy as much as they could on Planet 2.
Did they communicate or talk or?
Nope, no communications that we were able to pick up on or hear. The communications we had surmised that they were, in order to coordinate their own activities, was based on a hive mind concept in which there was a controlling command structure somewhere that fed the information and the objectives, the different go orders that each of the soldiers needed to follow.
How many of these creatures were there that you dealt with, that you saw?
Thousands.
Thousands.
Not all at one time, but over the period of the war. Yeah, there were a great many of them.
No offense, you're not a super intimidating looking guy. How did you deal with something so vicious and venomous?
Heavy firepower.
But they looks like they have some kind of body armor.
Their skin itself was pretty much impervious to small arms fire. Right. And so it required larger caliber weapons in order to even just do any damage to them.
Why don't you describe them for us?
They are a four-legged creature that didn't have any visible eyes, which meant that they were able to see their environment through what we had later determined was a type of ultrasonic interaction with the environment.
They have big ears.
Nope, no ears. No, nothing as far as ears or eyes that were visible. They had teeth.
So they're bouncing sound off of objects and then reading it?
Yes, similar to what a bat does in order to read its environment.
Did you witness these creatures killing humans?
I did. I was in enough situations seeing the carnage that they had delivered. They generally would attack in groups of 25 to 50, seemed to be the standard norm for a unit of one of these. And seeing fellow soldiers being ripped apart was certainly shocking and a psychological aspect of it. When we first encountered them and having to try and figure out how best to defeat this particular enemy, we weren't the first ones to encounter them. So we benefited from someone else's first experiences.
Somebody on planet 2?
Somebody else on planet 2. And so having their experiences with first encountering and learning that these small arms were ineffective and that the larger caliber rounds were the only means of stopping, slowing down, or delaying their attacks. So we were prepared in a sense in that we had deployed larger caliber weapons.
Why are you personally coming forward?
I'm coming forward now because there are thousands of others out there that have been through this, that have gone on the 20 and back program. And I'm not just talking about Americans, we're talking globally. And some of the people that did not come back, their stories need to be told, whether they were soldiers or scientists or just civilians. They provided and gave the ultimate sacrifice for humanity, and their stories need to be told. We need to have full disclosure. The people need to be aware of some of the things that humanity has done.
Yeah.
It's time to heal and to grow from that.
It's pretty crazy.
So you got on a shuttle and they took you to...
It's incredible. The stories are incredible. Anyway, guys, we're just TikToking it, kind of going down TikTok lane and checking these out. I got one more thing that I want to discuss, but I'm going to end the video live stream. I'll be right back live though. I want to talk about the smile tapes, specifically a series called They Lie Above. I don't know if you guys ever heard of this. There is a content creator. I don't know how to say the name. Hold on. Patoriku maybe, who does analog horror. And this is more of like a historical analog horror, right? Old VHS tape. Anyway. There was a launch, Flight 112, that Neil Armstrong did. This was prior to him going into and this is according to the analog horror series, by the way. This was prior to him going into NASA or whatnot, going and supposedly being the first man on the moon. Some people say we didn't land on the moon. Some say it was a whole movie production. Truth be told, I feel like our skies are guarded, aka monitored. It seems like any time, we've got UFO craft showing up around planes, commercial planes, private planes, military planes. These UFOs seem to, it's almost like they're guarding, aka policing the skies. Do they even let us get to, out to space or get to the moon? There's always been talks of what people experienced when they landed on the moon, seeing craft and creatures. There's a lot of videos out there, a lot of content out there, even just discussion, talk. But anyway, we're going to talk about the smile tapes. I want to talk about this They Lie Above series. So I'll be back, you all, here on the LeakYou.com channel and on Facebook as well. Make sure you check your notifications, guys. Y'all, I'm going to let this video lay where it lays, guys. Much love. Thank you for coming through. Until next time. Shout out to the LeakYou community. Please join us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
The judgment sentence that you are an asshole. The trial is over. Thank you, everybody.
Let's play a game. You have 10 seconds to take all your stuff and get out of my life. 10, 9, 8.
God bless you, motherfucker.
You're really smart. Like really, really